Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Energize Your Online Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, guys, today we are going to dig into when it is time to start selling your online course or your program. And I think for a lot of you, it might be sooner than
Now.
you're expecting. Start now. I think a lot of people think, well, I have to have my course or program completely finished. I think that my course, it needs to be perfect. I need to have all of the elements in it. I have to anticipate any problems and have fixed all of those problems. And that's just not the case. You can absolutely start selling your online course, and again, your program. We'll say online course throughout this episode just to make it easier, so I don't have to say all that stuff. But know that we could be talking about group coaching programs, something along those lines as well. But we'll just say online course for simplicity's sake. But you can start selling your course before you have finished building it. Now, I will say that with one caveat. You need to have a really good understanding of all of the elements that you will be building out if you haven't built them out yet. You also have to have a really good understanding of who your target audience is and how your course is going to benefit them, what the transformation they're going to experience is. How is your program going to change their lives, and how you're going to do that, how you're going to help them do that. But you don't necessarily have to have it finished in order to begin selling it. Now, you have to finish it eventually, of course. If you are selling this to people, you need to finish it. However, if you start selling it before it's finished, it can actually be for those of us who need to operate on deadlines, myself included, it can be a really good incentive, really good accountability to have to finish that program because people are purchasing it and they're getting up to the point in the program where you have to release the new modules or however you do it. So you can, even if you don't do it for everybody who purchases later on, you can drip out content to them so that, all right, here's what you get right away. And then you're going to get this next month and then this next month, giving you some time to finish up the pieces of your course, your program that you haven't yet finished by the time that you purchased it. But of course, make sure to include everything that you promise when you are selling it.
And I think that that's kind of where the idea, though, of finish too, of that nothing's ever really finished is what I will put out there, because yes, you're going to tell people what you are giving them. And so in a sense, you need to finish what you've promised your audience. But I think of our courses and we're always adding to them. And so if you're feeling like, oh, I know this is kind of the core of my program, but there are probably other things that I want to add to it, that's fine. You don't have to predict kind of the future of what else you might add, as long as you're not telling your audience you're giving them something. Yeah, exactly. But knowing that once you start engaging with your customers, they're going to give you valuable information that you have no other way of getting until you have people in your program. And that information can help inform you what you might want to add down the line, what you might want to adapt or change or evolve about the program. And that's okay. And so I think there's this perfectionism idea of this is 100% finished, this is perfect, and now I'm ready to put it out in the world. That point doesn't exist because everything is always changing. It's evolving. People are evolving. Their needs are evolving. And so you have something valuable to offer. Get it into the hands of people now so that they can benefit from it. There's no sense in kind of holding it close and tight and hoping that one day you're going to feel today's the day that it's ready, because that day is just it's not going to come.
Yeah. Yeah. In all of our courses, we add things like, I'll add in what I call quick coaching notes. Just when I see people in our Facebook groups asking the same question again and again, I think, maybe I didn't go as in depth as I wanted to, or make it quite as clear as I'd wanted to in some part. So then I go in, I record a quick coaching note just to make sure it's absolutely clear. Or sometimes it's something that we've covered, but they miss it because it's in with a bunch of other things. But it turns out that I learned through our Facebook group, through our coaching calls, that it's something that they're overlooking, they're missing, and I need to call it out for them. So I'll record a quick coaching note, or we've added additional resources, PDFs or downloads, guides, just to help them implement the program. But we couldn't have known that before we'd started working with people. We couldn't have known what kinds of things would have tripped them. We might have been able to guess at it, and we
Mhm.
certainly did launch all our programs with a lot of resources. But we've been able to add additional ones that have made it easier for all of our students to see positive results with the programs because we've added the stuff after the fact. We haven't tried to guess and then said, all right, nope, it's set in stone. We've finished the program, it's done. And again, you don't even have to have the program finished. If you're planning out an 8 module program, maybe you get to module 4 and you go, all right, I know what it's going to be. Let me start selling this. And again, if you're the kind of person who needs a little bit of a deadline, a little bit of external pressure to get stuff done, there's nothing like the external pressure of, oh, these people have paid me and they're expecting that next module to come out next month or whatever your timeline is. I have to make that a priority and get it done now. And I know that there are a lot of people for whom yes, it matters to us to get things done, but it can be a big help to have an external force making us put our rear ends in the chairs, fingers on the keyboard, and getting stuff done.
Yeah. And I think about you mentioned our student only Facebook groups and as well as just our customer service emails. We put our best foot forward with our FAQs on sales pages and things like that. But we learned a lot more what the FAQs actually were once we had people asking the questions. And so
Yeah.
to Nikki's point with the quick coaching notes, we added those, but even FAQ sections within the course and adding those to our sales pages for things that that came up before purchasing so that people got that information when they needed. And so one of the tools that we found really helpful lately, it's free. It's called Clarity. It's a Microsoft product. And so you can enter URLs that you want to kind of look at, and they have they take recordings of people so you can kind of see what users are clicking on and how, if there are any like dead clicks, if they're clicking on things and it's not going where they want it to go, or where they scroll to on a page, things like that. But it also has heat map capability. And so a heat map basically shows where people are lingering most on the page and what volume of people are where are they lingering. And so you can kind of see, we put in our homepage too. So on the navigation, what are the top spots that people are clicking on the navigation? And so it's color coded. So heat, if you think, the reds and oranges are the most kind of trafficked and clicked on places or viewed places, lingered on, versus like the blues and the greens, the cool colors. And so you can see very clearly visually with color coded indication, okay, these are the most kind of looked at, lingered on parts of my page, and here are parts that maybe people are missing. And so that information can be super valuable for you to say, okay, I have people now viewing all my materials. What adjustments can I now make to improve it? Of okay, this is really important information, but no one's looking at it. No one's reading this message, and I need to make sure that they get this message. Or alternatively, maybe they don't need that message because they're focusing on something else that you realize, oh, this is a key message because people are lingering on this and watching this or whatever it might be. Maybe I need to integrate that messaging through other materials in my my sales emails, my opt-in page, maybe wherever that you think that message needs to be pulled out,
Mm-hmm.
and people need to see it in more places, and because maybe they need to hear it again and again too. And clearly people can tell you what is most important to them. And we found that especially too with our FAQ area of our sales page, which FAQs are people actually clicking on, because we have an accordion style where they're all kind of condensed, all the questions you can see. And if people click on them, then they open, you can see the full answer. And so we can see which ones people are clicking on. And it's not necessarily the ones that we would have anticipated. And
Mm-hmm.
so knowing that, again, we can say, okay, people have these questions. Are there other places that we can address these questions and concerns they clearly have, maybe earlier in the process, so that they're primed and ready to go once they get to the sales page and they're not still hung up on some of these questions that they have. And so again, the only way we would have that information is by selling our offer and getting that information that we can use to make improvements and move forward. I think there's always inevitably a certain point where you just can't move forward as best as you can or as fast as you want to without additional information. You need that external information from your audience to give you what you need to sell your program better, to make it better, to improve it.
Yeah. And which is not to say that at any point, even once your program is done, that you aren't going to have the opportunities to improve
Yeah.
your sales page, improve your emails, all of that kind of thing. But our point is you don't have to wait
Mm-hmm.
to first of all, I have to finish my course and then I can start selling. And then you
Mm-hmm.
could start making those improvements right away. And on top of the fact, by the way, you can start making money sooner. It's also
Mm-hmm.
a great incentive to get stuff done when you start seeing money come in and you start hearing from your audience that they're so excited about the results. It is a big confidence booster to have people making purchases and see them coming in and see them getting the results that you knew that they would be able to get.
Yeah. And those people, when you go and launch your offer, it doesn't have to be, you can make it a limited kind of beta group, and you don't even have to call it that. You don't have to let people know that that's what it is. But if it makes you feel more comfortable to say, okay, I feel like I need to put this out in the world and get that valuable information and feedback on my course. So maybe you start selling it, but you put it out to your list. You don't start running ads to it maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of test and prove that your offer and your messaging and all of that works
Mm-hmm.
with an audience that you already, a warm audience. And then maybe you integrate ads and you start selling it to a broader, wider audience. And so you can kind of control how many people you have coming through to kind of ease your own concerns, especially if you've got that perfectionist tendency and you think, oh, but I'm not ready. It can be a gentle way in to, again, continue to improve and get you to that point where you feel like, okay, now it's even stronger place. My program feels, my offer is even better than it was. Now it can kind of open the doors to a wider group.
Yeah, exactly. And you can use it to test elements of your offer. You can use it to test your price too. Your
Yeah.
beta group can be at a lower price point. And if you get people purchasing there and they're loving it, then you can say to yourself, all right, I got people to purchase at this price point. Can I offer it at a higher price point? And certainly your price point can change. You can increase it. It's a little easier to increase than it is to decrease, but that's also still possible. The great thing is that nothing has to be written in stone. You can make changes, but the longer that you wait to put your offer out into the world, the longer it's going to be before you can make those changes, before you can optimize, and before you can make more money and help more people.
Yeah. And the sooner you get people going through, the sooner you can get that social proof and testimonials, which is huge, as everyone knows, to getting more people in and understanding the value of your program and having that validation, that external validation, not just for your own sake, but for other purchasers to see, oh, wow, look what this program did for these folks that look like me, sound like me, have similar challenges as me. Great, I need this program too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, and those improvements too, that can include improvements to your offer. So you can launch right away with just your program, not just your program, but your amazing program. But also as you go, you might discover that there's an upsell that will help people get, and we know upsells. You offer upsells that help people get results faster, better, and or easier. So maybe you come up with an upsell that you are then able to add once you get this feedback for people that have been in the program. And or you may discover that there's a downsell because you discover that there's a certain reason why people are not purchasing, and this downsell can overcome that reason. And obviously there are all kinds of psychology that go into upsells and downsells. We won't go into them too in depth here. But maybe you can offer a downsell that will overcome that reason or will help them to take action so that next time they can purchase, they are ready to do that. But again, you can't know this stuff until you can guess, but you can't know until you've gotten people, given people the opportunity to purchase your program.
And I think too, some people, and we've had circuit sales system entrepreneurs in the program that have multiple ideas for multiple offers. And I think that can slow people down too of, well, I'm going to build both simultaneously, which is fine if you have another revenue income stream where you can do that and take all the time you want before you start selling both. But I think for most people, we want to start generating revenue. And so focusing on, okay, which of these offers is kind of my core, do I want to start with? Maybe has the biggest audience, or maybe you've completed more of it than your other idea for another offer. And so focusing on completing one of them first and selling one of them first before you
Yes.
have another offer in the works.
Exactly. The more that you and and believe me, I think so many entrepreneurs are I don't know if guilty is the right word, but also so many
You've got a
entrepreneurs are
lot of
guilty of this.
ideas.
Yeah, we are idea people. So when we
Mhm.
come up with one great course idea, we also often come up with, oh, another great, and this would be great. It's to a different audience, but and then
Mhm.
we think, well, I'll just build them both at the same time. And the more that you split your focus like that, the more that you slow everything down. Whereas if you focus on building one course, selling that course, and getting that going, getting that income coming in, then you're going to have some time to start working on the second course if indeed you want to keep working on that second course. But if you're thinking, well, I'm going to build out both of these courses simultaneously, and then I'm going to start selling them simultaneously, you're going to slow everything down.
Mhm.
And I've seen so many entrepreneurs get stuck in that, and all of a sudden they realize they haven't launched anything, they haven't put anything out into the world, they haven't made any sales, but they have 3 or 4 half-baked courses.
Mhm.
Whereas instead, if you focus on one and make that solid, and again, you don't have to have it completed before you start selling it, but focus on getting that one up and going, selling, earning you some money. Then after you finish that course, once you've started selling it, then you can go back and focus on other courses if you want to, but don't try to split your focus.
Yeah. Well, then you have revenue coming in. And so for that next course, you don't have to do all of the tasks again that you don't either don't want to do, aren't in your zone of genius. You can have other folks helping you. And so that becomes just a lot easier. I don't know,
Easier.
easy, just
Yes.
more fun.
Yes. It's easier. And when you have people that you can pay and bring in to help you with stuff, life is easier, life is more fun, life is more flexible. Absolutely. So a question that we're anticipating is, okay, well, how much of my course do I
Mhm.
have to have done before I can start selling it? We hear this a lot when people are interested in joining the circuit sales system. Okay, I'm working on my course. I'm not done with it yet, but how much of it do I have to have done before I can start selling it? Which is a great and valid
Valid.
question. Um, Number one, you do have to understand what's going to go into all of your course. You can't be thinking, well, I think it's going to be about this, or I think it's going to be about that. You should have a solid map for, all right, it's going to be 8 modules. Module 1 is going to focus on this, module 2, module 3. You need to have a plan for the full course. Again, you can add stuff to this. It's going to be a little bit trickier to take things away if you promise people they're going to be in it, but you can
Mhm.
also always deliver to the people that pay for it, and then change your sales page later, change your offer later. But you should have a good understanding of what your program is going to be. And you should have a good initial understanding of who your audience is and what that transformation is going to be. I will say that, especially with the circuit sales system, one of the things that our students say to us again and again is that they've learned so much more about their target audience, and so much more about that transformation, and so much more about what that audience wants and needs. They thought they knew all of it, but they've learned so much more through the exercises that we take them through and the work that we take them through, that sometimes they will end up adding things or changing things within their course, or refining
Mhm.
their messaging in a way that they wouldn't have been able to do if they had waited until after their course was completely built, to get started with CSS. But you should have the plan for your course. You should have a real good idea of who your target audience is, and what the transformation is. But you also need to have at least something to deliver to them when they're purchased. You need to, maybe it's the first module, maybe it's the first couple of modules, but when they purchase, they need to have something that they can get started with. You also then need to have a timeline of when you're going to deliver the rest of it. I mean, just imagine if you purchase something that was supposed to be 8 modules, you get in, it's only 1 module, and then the rest of it is quote unquote coming soon. I mean, wouldn't you be a little ticked off? Versus, like, here's when you're getting this module, here's when you're getting the next one, here's when
Mhm.
you're getting the next one. And again, those deadlines will help you. At first, it might be like, oh, it makes me nervous. Good. Because those nerves, as someone who has spent a lot of her life freelancing, and Kate, I know you can attest to this as well,
Oh, yeah.
deadlines are good because they make you
Yeah.
take action.
You got to deliver.
Exactly. So how many parts of the module you have ready to go when you get started, or how many parts of the course you have ready to go when you get started, that's up to you. Like, again, at a minimum, one, there has to be something when they purchase. I would think Ideally, at least a couple of them. But again, just one is enough as long as you let them know when that delivery is coming and it's in a reasonable time frame. You can't sell them an 8-module course, give them one module and say, the next module is coming in 6 months.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of people saying, this is not what you sold me. I want my money back. You want it to be a good experience for people. So if you give them one module and you think, all right, I think a reasonable time to digest this module would be in a month, or you give them 3 modules and think, all right, I think they'd probably get through these 3 modules in about 6 weeks, then plan to release that next module in 6 weeks.
Yeah. And one of the ways that we started thinking about our projects, big and small, really, but mostly the bigger ones, is thinking about it in phases, though. So thinking about this with building your course, of phase 1 being what's the bare minimum. And so to Nicki's point, maybe that is 1 module, maybe it's 3 modules, whatever your kind of bare minimum is. And then thinking of phase 2 being, okay, I need to add these things, but they can wait because people are going to have this chunk of work and it's going to take them a decent amount of time to get through. So I can be working on this while in phase 2. And then thinking of phase 3, and phase 3 might change again because now your program's out in the world. And again, you're getting that information coming back. But I would think of phase 3, at least initially, as you're nice to have. So for example, you don't need the world's most beautiful logo or design, or, things don't have to be perfect in the sense of what you envision them ultimately to be. Think about, you can do text emails, and they could say, we do text emails. Yes, we have a countdown timer in there and whatnot, and some imagery, but there's no over the top design elements. And that actually works better for us. And so I think some of these things that you might think you need, but be honest with, do I need this or do I want this? And is it helpful for my customer? No, beautiful design doesn't help your customer per se. It's not, if it's not part of your offer, obviously if you're selling a design course, yes, then maybe design is a lot more important to what you're selling. But if you're selling, something in the health and wellness space, then design doesn't necessarily, they need the information that they need to make to have the transformation that you've promised them. And so if you're delivering what you said you're delivering on your promise, then that's what they need. The bells and whistles, if you will, are the nice to haves. And so thinking of those phase 3, phase 4 even, and maybe you decide once you launch it that you realize I don't actually need these bells and whistles. Maybe you want them and that's great. And when you have the time, space, and revenue and all of that to do those bells and whistles, great, go for it. But I think it's getting really focused on what actually matters and what you actually need to sell versus kind of getting in your own way and saying, well, putting up roadblocks that aren't actually roadblocks. Well, I need this before I sell. And it can be scary or nerve-wracking to put your offer out there for the first time. And I think some of these things are just that resistance coming up to say, well, I need this. I need this before I put it out into the world. And if you got to put that CEO hat on and say, actually, no, like to start generating revenue, I don't need the world's most beautiful website or the world's most beautiful insert whatever.
Yeah. I think resistance, I really want to highlight that word because one of my favorite sayings is don't believe everything you think. And I'm not sure who said that, but it's a fantastic saying because we tend to believe just because our brain says something like, no, it has to be finished before I can put it out into the world. Just because our brain is saying something to us doesn't mean it's true. And it's often that resistance part of our brain is trying to keep us in our comfort zone, that's trying to keep us small, that's trying to keep us on our sofa eating Cheetos instead of achieving the things that we dream of. Because let's face it, especially if this is your first course, your first program, it's outside of your comfort zone. Even if it's your second or your third or however many, it's outside of your current comfort zone. And the thing is that all of the things that we want in life are outside of our comfort zones, that having a greater impact on the world, that working with more people, that helping more people, that earning more income, it's all outside of our comfort zone. And anytime we're trying to get outside of our comfort zones, that resistance is going to kick up. And this is a prime way that it happens, saying, no, it has to be completely done. It has to be completely perfect before I can begin selling it. And that's just absolutely not true. Like we said, you do need to know what you're selling. You need to have a good plan for it, but first of all, it does not have to be completely done. And second of all, it absolutely does not have to be perfect. Also, because what is perfect? Perfect is not a real thing. You can always, there are always opportunities to make improvement, and you can continue to make improvement. And by the way, your students will really appreciate that. When you have students in the program and you're still adding things after they have purchased that will help them be even more successful. Students love that. It's a great way. I mean, don't do this artificially, don't hold stuff back, but it's a great way to show them how much you care about them and you care about their success. Where as you think of things to add, you add them and give them access to them because you want them to be successful. It's a great way to demonstrate how much you care about them. And it's a great way to just continue to build that relationship between you and your students.
And it's an opportunity to show that you're listening to everyone in your program. And that's what we do. That's how we add material to all of our courses, because things come up and we're like, oh yeah, there's a lot of people talking about this one topic. And ooh, we need to pull that in or highlight it more. Or we didn't highlight that, or oh, that's just something new that's happening in the industry. And so we add that. And I think people feel seen, and who doesn't want to feel seen and heard, and oh wow, they're paying attention. They didn't just sell me the program and that's it. It really creates loyalty to your brand, and that does wonders in terms of the word of mouth marketing and getting your name out there in a positive way, and having a reputation for being just a good someone people want to buy from.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing that we want to make sure that we cover off on is the idea of, do you have to build an audience before you start selling? Do you have to have this big audience in order to then be able to start selling? And no, you don't. And in fact, I would say a lot, we get that question a lot when it comes to the circuit sales system. And one of the fastest ways to make your audience go stale, to make your list go stale, meaning that they're kind of bored, they're not really on your list, but they're not opening your emails anymore, is to get them on your list with nothing to sell them. Right? You've said, hey, I'm the person who has this solution to your problem. They're like, oh, great. They sign up for the email list, and then you don't have a solution to give them. So if you spend all of your time building your list before you have a solution to give them, what you're going to end up with is a nice big list where people aren't actually even opening your emails. And so what's the point? And you will have spent time and energy and maybe even money to build that list, only for nothing to come up. Certainly you will make some sales, but not a ton. So no, you absolutely do not have to be working on building your list before you have something to sell. In fact, generally, if not always, we recommend waiting to start really digging in and building. Or certainly let people on your list. People are following you on social media. Let them opt in for. But wait to start really getting people on your list until you have something to sell them, until you have the solution they're looking for, which makes sense, right? Why should they get on your list if they can't even get access to that solution yet? Which is just, again, another reason for selling it before it's completely finished, because then they can start getting that solution to their problem as soon as possible, instead of you, let's face it, when we're on our own timelines, often it takes a lot longer. Anybody who's ever started building a course, I know I'm preaching to the choir, we're like, yeah, I'm going to get it done in like 2 months. And then 6, 7, 8 months later, you're still not done. It creates that incentive for us to finish it sooner. And also we can help them get results sooner, which is why we're in business to begin with. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Just like our customers need urgency to make the purchase, we need urgency to get stuff done. And there's no urgency like having a real hard and fast deadline.
Exactly. And those two meet perfectly when you start to sell, even before your course or your program is finished. So this might be a slightly different way of looking at things for you, or it might be maybe a concept you've heard before. I know that in the past I was like, well, man, no, it's not really my thing. But I've absolutely come around on that, certainly over the past several years. And it can be very beneficial, if not, for some people and for some situations, the best thing to do to start selling before your course is finished. It can be a really important way to make big steps in our business and to give us that cash infusion that, quite frankly, some of us need, especially when we're first getting started. So something to think about, maybe an opportunity to stretch your perception, and or maybe that kick in the rear end to get you to start selling. So with that, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Do you want to learn how to sell and scale your offer on autopilot every single day without the chaos of live launching or the low conversions of Evergreen? Who doesn't, right? Get our free on-demand video training at circuitsalessystem.com/free. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel to make sure you never miss a video. We'll catch you next time.